again, thanks for tuning in to Camposol TV. This is Camposol Through Time, and last week we talked about the Civil War and how it sort of had an impact on people around Camposol and around the area that we live. And to help us understand a little bit more about this, joining me again in the studio to cover a lot more sort of personal things that he's talked about before and some artifacts we looked at last week is our very own historian and time traveller, Antonio Hernandez Benitez. Antonio, hello. We're back.
Yes, we're back.
We've got lots of artifacts. This is, I believe these are all from your museum, your personal museum?
Yeah, well, somehow, yes.
You've got quite a collection, apparently.
Well, yes. I have plenty of family memories and as well things that actually I found myself or some others as well. I'm collecting different other things, which I will show you one day.
So last week we talked about the Civil War and how it split a nation with the Republicans and the Nationals, thank you. It split the nation, but it also split families, and it had an impact on society as a whole. It wasn't like one would consider a traditional war where you've got a front line and all these people on this side are Republicans and all these people on that side are Nationals. It was very different. It was sort of more integrated in different pockets of areas where there was some of each.
Exactly.
How did this impact on your family?
Well, my family, as a majority of the families in those days, they were divided into. Okay, I have one grandfather who was actually fighting with Franco, and another grandfather who was fighting against Franco. Okay, majority of the times this happened not because of political reasons. It was basically because where they were living. Okay, my family around here, they were living in Los Cánovas and as well in an area called Butron, which is not far from Camposol. It's actually the hills in the back of A sector. Okay. And they have no other choice really, okay, because they have to be Republicans. And my family there in the Franco area, actually my grandfather, he was actually convinced that he was part of the political party, the Falange, which he was actually somehow the political party of Franco. Okay, but majority of the rest of the family, they were just because they were in areas they were national, so automatically they were national.
So whichever area was controlled by whichever side, then you just had to be that sort of within them. If you fought against them, obviously you'd be in trouble.
Exactly.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah. So you're saying about your grandfather's being on either side. You've got a relic here. We touched on it last week.
Exactly. The only remains actually from the Republican side that we have.
Because all the Republicans' equipment and things, once the Nationalists had taken over with Franco, were they allowed to actually keep any of that things?
Well, you were allowed to keep things, okay, but they were dangerous to keep.
Right.
Okay, the same as, for instance, which we will talk later on about the money. For instance, my grandmother had to burn all the savings because it was Republican money. And
so anything that sort of tied them to the Republicans, they had to hide it, burn it, or
destroy.
Just
have to disappear if you don't want to be in trouble.
Right.
Even so, my grandfather, he was as I mentioned in the program before, he was in jail. Okay.
And he was Republican side?
Yes.
Right, so he basically served a bit of time because, did he fight against the Nationalists at all?
No, really. He was basically a single builder. He was actually building the pillboxes, different trenches, and helping to transport different things around the area and collect different things for the army. Okay, but he was not really doing nothing at all with fighting or killing people or anything like that.
We've got on the table as well, we've got a medal, a cross medal. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, this belongs to my other grandfather. I mean, my grandfather here in Los Cánovas, he was called Francisco, Paco, and then my other grandfather was called Antonio, the same as me. And he got 3 medals, actually, during the Spanish Civil War, okay? And basically, he was part of the Spanish army with Franco. Okay, and after the war, he becomes actually part of the Guardia Civil, which is the equivalent of the police, probably in the United Kingdom. No, it's part of the security forces, and he was actually part of the Guardia Civil during the Franco times.
So good. I mean, we haven't touched on this yet about the Guardia Civil and the Police Nacional, and there seems to be quite a lot of police forces in Spain.
Nowadays, yes, we have a lot. We have a lot.
It takes a bit of understanding
Yes.
and who's who, and in the UK we've pretty much got one.
Yes, exactly. This is what I mean. Guardia Civil is the oldest, actually, is over 100 years old.
And this was Franco's police force, originally.
No. Guardia Civil is coming right after the Napoleon War.
Right, okay.
Okay. Franco was using all the police forces to eliminate their enemies. Okay, to find information about who was Republican or who was communist and so on, and trying to eliminate all the enemies. So he was obviously manipulating the Guardia Civil, manipulating the police and so on. Okay, so actually during the Spanish Civil War, they were actually Guardia Civil that they were actually from the Republican side.
Right.
As well. So
now the photos you've got,
yes.
Some of these look like they go back a bit far in time.
Yes.
What have we got?
Well, we have one of the oldest photos that we have is actually from my grandfather. He's actually wearing the uniform of the Spanish army during the Spanish Civil War. Okay, actually winter uniform, obviously. And I have as well the identification that actually he was using right after the Spanish Civil War.
So we've got the two there. So one of them is a picture of him in all his glory, in his uniform there, and that's the same ID, the same person ID there. Now this is well protected in a plastic thing, so I'm not going to be fingerprints all over it.
Actually, in those days there was no identity cards that we have nowadays. They will come later on. They will be introduced by Franco later on. So for my grandfather to have an identity card from the Falange political party, which was the fascist political party, and being as well a member of the Guardia Civil, and as well he was an ex-officer in the Spanish army. He was sometimes even above the law somehow. Okay, so he was able to do many things like majority of the population, especially in this area, majority of people they couldn't do. He was able to travel. He was able to get things from, for instance, medicines or different food.
So there was definite privilege for people that were,
sure.
even after the war,
Yeah.
there was privilege for people that supported Franco during the war and supported Franco
Sí.
after.
For
And
sure.
The Republicans, they didn't have certain privileges.
Exactly. I mean, for instance, my family here, because they were part of the Republican side, my grandmother, for instance, while my grandfather was in jail, she was not able to have like a ration books that they used to actually provide to basic food to families and so on. She was not entitled to have it because actually my grandfather was in jail. After that, when he was released, my grandfather have to go every Sunday to church, and the priest actually used to have a list of people that they actually have to name during the mass and tick.
So the church were working with the nationalists to
for sure.
help them police the situation.
Exactly. And to control after the Spanish Civil War as well, they were controlling not only the Guardia Civil as well, the priest, or even on the schools as well later on. They will use even the teachers and so on to somehow not only to manipulate the children's minds as well, to control the population, to find out information about people.
So around here, where would be the headquarters of let's say the Guardia Civil that were monitoring all the farms and the villages around here?
The same as we have it nowadays in Puerto de Mazarrón, Totana, Alhama, Fuente Álamo.
The same sort of big
Exactly.
area, big cities.
Exactly. Basically, this is where they used to control. Basically, the same, very similar to nowadays.
And was there a sense of if you lived in the countryside, sort of in the hills at the back and things, then you'd be kind of left alone, or was it quite sort of oppressive?
Majority of the times, for instance, my family didn't get in trouble because even if they have the past of being Republicans, and actually part of my family as well, part of the family of my grandmother, they were actually from the trade union that actually used to control Fuente Álamo and part of this area as well. But they were, because as you said, they were living in the middle of nowhere somehow, and they were not making troubles to anyone. They left it alone, basically. Okay, so they didn't, and because they were not in any list because Franco or the Republicans as well, they used to have different lists of names of people that they have to eliminate, they have to kill. Okay. So they were lucky because my grandfather was not in any list like that, and he was just in jail, and after that he was released. Okay. So he was like somehow having a new life after.
Yeah, and I mean, was that sort of Franco's way of sort of buying the support of people once he'd sort of they'd done their time, and then there was no more pressure on them?
Exactly.
Because obviously the population had to go on.
Exactly, and especially in this area, you were not able to deny it. You were not able to say like, oh no, I was not a Republican, you know, because everyone was it was part of the Republican side, and somehow you were collaborating with them. And somehow, probably your son was in part of the army, or your husband, your father, okay, or even you know, like I don't know, plenty of families as well. They were involved in different situations. So you cannot eliminate the whole population.
Of course, you need that population.
Yes.
What else have we got? So we've got an orange card here. What's this one?
This is actually from the 50s. It's actually the identification from my grandfather. Is from the political party.
From the
Falange, which is the fascist.
The fascist party.
Yes.
And that's his identification there. Wow.
He actually died being a fascist, I have to say.
So he kept his beliefs all his life.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, one thing we have got on the table, other than identity cards, we've got this. Now, this is a shell casing.
Yes, this I found it myself when I was a child. Okay, I used to live in a farm not far from Camposol, you know, like 7 kilometers away from A sector on the hills. Okay, those hills they belong actually to my family since 300 years ago, and I used to live in a little farm over there, and just walking around I found this one day, and I thought like very strange, because the hunters, they don't use this type of ammunition or this type of rifles.
No, I mean, this is obviously old. It's got some age. Do you know roughly how old this could be?
Well, I actually asked to a friend of mine who's British, actually. He's been serving in the British Army, and he says actually is from the, probably is from the 30s, and it's actually Soviet ammunition. So I assume it's part of the Republican.
So the Soviets were supporting the Republic,
exactly,
against the fascist side,
exactly,
against the nationalist side. Sorry. So, what sort of munitions were they sending through? Was it just rifles and rounds, or was it?
Well, I think all kind of ammunition. Okay, because the biggest supplier to the Spanish Republican side, it was actually Soviet Union.
Yeah. So
they were sending all kind of things to Spain. You know, like not only rifles, they were sending tanks, aeroplanes, many other things that actually they were landing. And I have to say, like sometimes you can find things like this, okay, but some other things you can, some other times, sorry, you can find proper ammunition, okay, which is not being exploded, okay.
Live ammunition.
Live ammunition.
Because with this one, you've clearly got, it's just a shell casing.
Exactly.
There's nothing, there's no round in there as such, and on the back, you'll see a little dimple in the back there where the firing pin has clearly set it off. If you ever find a round where that is flat and there's no dimple there, then it's a live round, especially when there's a lead in the end there for you. So, but they're still finding relics of proper explosive, hand grenades and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, around here, for instance, it's not very common nowadays, but it used to be more common a few years ago, where people, they were able to find, making reforms, when you were doing a reform at home or in a public building, they were, sometimes they found ammunition, and they found guns and so on. They were hiding them. Because the Republicans, they used to believe that Franco is not going to last. Okay, they thought like the Second World War will start, and the allied forces will come and liberate Spain. Okay, so plenty of them, they were hiding all those ammunition and guns and so on, just in case, like later on they will need it.
So an underground army sort of thing, almost, sort of waiting for the day that liberation came so they could do their thing.
Exactly. So for different reasons, probably those people, they died, or they passed away, or they forgot where the things they were hiding, or I don't know. But you are able actually to find as well. The army, when the Republican army, they surrendered, they just left everything in the middle of the road, for instance. Okay, this actually is the only casualty that actually happened in this area. Actually, was in Los Cánovas, was a child, because they left different tanks with ammunition, and the soldiers, they just ran away. And the children, they were playing, and they took one piece of ammunition from the tank, and they set fire to it, and exploded actually, and killed a child.
This is in Los Cánovas.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's actually in all this area, Saladillo and so on, Cañadas del Romero, it's actually the only casualty that we know that actually happened during the Spanish Civil War in this area.
Well, that's a story and a half, isn't it? We've got so much history locally. We've looked at all different aspects of history, but there's so much recent history when we've got like all your connections with your family. You're finding this in a field, a shell casing in a field, not far from Camposol.
No, and for sure you're able to find different other things.
Probably a firing range or practice shoot or something like this.
Probably.
Like you said, there was no action as such around here, was there?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fascinating, Antonio. Absolutely fascinating. Thank you very much for bringing all your lovely memorabilia in, and I'm looking forward to when I can actually get time to come down and see your museum as well. Thanks for the invite. I am coming.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Antonio. Thanks so much for you as well for watching. Hopefully you found it as fascinating as I have. It's been one of my favourite programmes, this one so far. Thank you for watching. This is Camposol Through Time, and we will see you at the same time next week with more history about Camposol, the place where you live. See you later. Bye-bye.